Let me do an acronym just for Amelia. 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 And I came up with this. For the letter A, I do have some copies if you would like to have them at the end. For the letter A, I found Queen Mother Robinson to be ambitious. And if anybody disagrees, you can stand and express your disagreement. Other than that, shake your head or say amen or do something. Amen. Queen Mother Robinson was ambitious. And by that, boys and girls, I mean she was always aspiring for something higher, some higher achievement, some higher level of positive thinking. Ambitious. Don't sit back and do nothing. Do something. And we move on to the next letter in her name, M. We know she was a matriarch. Yes. We know that. And a matriarch, of course, is one who woos their family, the mother of the family. And I said, do we have any mothers with us tonight?
All right.
Raise your hand, mothers. Look at all of these mothers. Queen Mother was a matriarch who ruled her family, ruled her tribe, ruled this community to some extent, ruled the state to some extent, and ruled the nation to some extent, especially the young. And that's why it's so good to have our young people with us. I saw someone had a shirt that said respected. The matriarch is highly respected. Aretha Franklin wasn't the only one who said R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Okay? We respected matriarch Amelia. And then I moved on to the letter E. The letter E, when I think of Amelia Boynton Robinson, I think of equality. Yes. And just go back into your minds and how her one's life is devoted to equality, freedom, and justice for all of God's people. All of God's people. And then I went on to the L. I said, well, L could represent longevity. Because indeed she did survive, and lived a full and long and profitable life. Yes. Not profit maybe in terms of dollars in the bank, but profitable in terms of that matriarch and that respect and all that she was able to give and receive. And then I moved on to I, integrity. I can just hear her now. Integrity, honor, righteousness, uprightness, integrity. And then the last letter in her first name, A. She was accountable. She was accountable, she was responsible, she was chargeable in addressing the needs of her people, especially those people who were less able to speak for themselves. And when they spat her out on that bridge in Selma, that was accountability to some extent. And I want to say to you, as we celebrate and remember the life of Queen Mother, and I love the designation Queen, because indeed she was our Queen. I don't know whether we found another Queen in Tuskegee yet, but we're looking. We're looking for a Queen, someone who will fill the righteous, upright position. So as you come this evening to celebrate, remember Queen Mother, and at the same time, find your place. Find your place. Queen Mother used to say, we talk about on her shoulder. She told us to get off of her shoulders.
That's right.
Get off of my shoulders.
Get on.
And that's right. Get on your own shoulders. And I've heard so many people say, what's in a name? You know, boys and girls, a good name is better to be chosen than great riches. Welcome, 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 and let's remember our Queen Mother. Thank you.
My name is Shamaya Gibbs. I am 16 years old. I attend Booker T. Washington High School, and I am in the 11th grade. Hello, my name is Amelia PLATTS, and I just have one question for you. Have you registered to vote? That's right, you should be registered to vote because it's your right. I know you're black and I know you are a woman. That is plain to see. However, in the United States of America, you have a right to vote. So, have you registered? Oh, you want to know why I'm asking you? You think I should just learn my place as a young lady. Well, I believe that all people have a right to vote. That includes women and people of every color. It was wrong when they made us take a test to vote. Voting is our right as an American citizen. Let me introduce myself. I am Amelia Boynton Robinson. I was one of the first blacks registered to vote in 1934. While in college at Tuskegee Institute, I met Sam Boynton and we were married. I wrote the play Through the Years about my relative, Robert Smalls. I also wrote the book Bridges Over Jordan and was beaten and gassed during the Selma to Montgomery March. I was the first woman to run for Congress in Alabama. I have been honored around the world, but I know that my strength comes from my God. There is no secret what God can do. What He's done for others, He'll do for you. With arms wide open, He'll pardon you. There is no secret what God can do. Now tell me, ma'am, tell me, sir, have you registered to vote?
First of all, welcome to Tuskegee, Bacon County. Home of Tuskegee Airmen, home of Tuskegee University, home of so many great things and so many great people of all cultures, particularly African American, but many cultures have done great things in Tuskegee. And it's something about this community that brings out the best. But I do want to highlight the fact that she did so many things for us that we forget. You forget even in Macon County, over 80% African American, or Bullitt County, we didn't have any black elected officials. Not until 1960, I think it was 1966, when you had Sheriff Angelson was elected. Yeah. And then right after that you had Thomas Reed was elected, along with Fred Gray, and on to Johnny Ford as mayor. So things turned around because of Amelia Boynton Robinson and her courage, and her willingness, and her determination. So I'm just happy to be here to welcome you here and to remind us to continue that work, because it's so important. The other thing she always joked with me about, she said, she would get on me, she said, we were in Landlord Association together, we had back in the day. She said, you got a piece of land? I said, yeah, we do. She said, well, keep working it. She said, I got land in 3 counties. And she was almost brag about it, but she was excited about it and tell us the importance of owning land and sharing with family. But the key thing always that I remember that she did, all the way until the day that she passed, was she asked us, did you take care of the children? Did you reach out to the children and get the message to the children? Absolutely. And I think that's what we have to remember about her. She was service, she was willing, she was courageous, she was about family, about people, about love, for people of all cultures, in all settings, wherever they're from. But she always reminded us to get the message to the children and things will be all right. So it's my honor to be here and welcome you here. Chief, I thank you. I had to be here. We've got to continue this. One final thing I want to share with you. When Chief and others came to us on the City Council, I was Mayor Pro Tem, to ask about naming Franklin Road, Amelia Boynton Robinson. Yes. We went together and said, let's make it Amelia Boynton Robinson Parkway. Because we want to improve it and make it a parkway named after her. It now has a sign on both ends of Pleasant Springs, Amelia Boynton Robinson Parkway, and on this end, when you come on Franklin Road, is now Amelia Boynton Robinson Parkway. Well, further, we've been talking about it in the president of the Legacy Museum on the campus, Dana Chandler. He is getting with us to try to develop, and guys heard this, we're going to try to develop a park on the parkway and name that park for Amelia Boynton Robinson. Hopefully we'll be able to put the plaque there. One of the plaques that was given recently that will be set down on the Civil Rights Trail that's coming to Tuskegee in Macon County. One of the plaques is Amelia Boynton Robinson. It will be put on that street. So we want to be able to put it on the street so it'll be in the park. So we're going to try to work with the Board of Education to either do it on their property right across from her house, or at the property right at the corner of where the National Park Service is, because that's closer to the university. But we want to try to get 1 acre and make it into a nice park where people can come and sit and have benches, have parking, and we put the marker there in recognition of her. Because she meant so much to this community, so much to this state, and so much to the world. And we've got to do that. So we'll probably be calling on you to join us, because we may have to lean on the Board of Trustees at the university to give up that acre, or the Board of Education. I think once they see it and get the information and understand it, they'll fully be behind it. But thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for lifting her up, because it lifts us up as a community and a place in this nation that we've got to be at, and we've got to mind ourselves for people like her and what we're really about, and not about the other divisiveness.
Mother Robinson's legacy continues to live, and it will continue as long as we have those who remember that we have an obligation, we have a stewardship. He must register to vote, and everybody we know, we must encourage them to register and vote. Let us pray. Father, thank you. Thank you, Lord, for the generational blessings that you've allowed us to witness here today. We thank you for Mother Robinson, who had the audacity to look beyond where she was, to look beyond her circumstance, and to see the possibilities. Lord, let us continue to honor her legacy. Let us continue to discharge this stewardship that you have entrusted to us. Now, Lord, bless the food that we're about to receive. Bless the fellowship that we will continue to enjoy. And then, Lord, when we leave here, bless us with the tenacity to call right, right, and wrong, wrong. And to encourage all of our neighbors and friends to participate in the process, to vote. Yes. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
We come petitioning you to join us in spirit and in truth in what is history's and America's movement toward the great society. A nation of justice where none shall free upon the weakness of others. A nation of plenty where greed and poverty shall be done away. A nation of brotherhood where success is founded upon service and honor given for nobleness alone. We have come to represent the Negro citizens of Alabama and freedom-loving people from all over the United States and the world. We have come not only 5 days and 50 miles, but we have come from 3 centuries of suffering and hardship. We have come to you, the governor of Alabama, to declare that we must have our freedom now. We must have the right to vote. We must have equal protection of the law and end to police brutality. When the course of human events so denied citizens of this nation and of the right to vote, a right to adequate education, an opportunity to earn sufficient income, and when legal channels for real changes are both slow and costly, a people must turn to the rights provided by the first Constitution of the United States. We must appeal to the seat of government with the only peaceful and nonviolent resource at our command. Our physical appearance and the moral power of our soul. Thus, we present our bodies with this petition as a living climate of this state produced the man who savagely attacked and killed the Reverend James Reed. We call upon you, Governor Wallace, to declare your faith in the American creed, to declare your belief in the words of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. We call upon you to establish democracy in Alabama by taking the step necessary to assure the registration of every citizen of voting age and a sound mind. By by ending the poll tax in the state election, by opening the registration books at times when they are convenient to working people, such as nights and Saturdays, by encouraging the cooperation of county officials in the democratic process, and by appointment of Negro citizens to the boards and agencies of the state in policy-making positions. We call upon you to put an end to police brutality and to assure the protection of the law to black and white citizens alike. We call upon you to work to end the climate of violence and hatred which persists in this state by denouncing all who would use violence in the propagation of their beliefs and by avoiding the perpetration of racism through official statements and political addresses.
Power in Queen Mother, and I saw power in the woman that I'm going to introduce you to, and we hooked them up together. And during a session of that meeting, Queen Mother passed her torch to Audri Scott Williams. Could I get a word from you on carrying that torch?
First of all, an honor to be standing here this evening, and thank you, Dr. Harrington, for holding and anchoring me. I heard you say, who's our next queen? I think that there's no question that you are the queen in the room. Carrying the torch for Queen Mother, first of all, when she said that I'm passing this torch to you, I felt a weight, if you will, and it was, how does someone walk in those shoes? How do I walk in her shoes? And since that time, there were some things that we have in common, and some things I was yet to have in common with her. One of those was going around the world, seeing the conditions of people all over the world, especially our young people. The other was Queen Mother was the first woman to stand up and put her name on the ballot to run for Congress. Black or white, she was the first. So in 2018, I found myself running for Congress trying to figure out how did I happen to make that decision, only to realize that Queen Mother had done that. So isn't it quite interesting how things happen? But what I want to really be a voice for tonight is where we stand as we're coming up on the year 2020. I hear her voice all the time saying, motivate, motivate, motivate our communities to get out, one, register to vote, and number two, make sure we do everything we can to get everyone to the polls, and that's from the youngest to the eldest. Because 2020 is going to be a very important marker, not only for our communities here in Alabama, but for communities around the nation and the world. We have seen racism grow. We have seen decisions being made that are locking up our young people so fast and coming out not having the skills to be able to get the job nor the resources to enter back into the system and reclaim their lives for themselves and their families. We've seen our children facing issues, and I'm not running for Congress, so this isn't a political pitch. We have seen our children having to face issues such as hunger, food scarcity, issues with shelter, sanitation. So as we're looking at 2020, I hear in carrying the torch, the critical time that we're in, the moment that we're in, we cannot sleep through this election. That's right. And even though this is 2018 and we're looking at 2020, it's never too soon to begin the activation, to begin to instill in people the power that comes with the vote. We can't be discouraged. We have to feel empowered that our vote matters. And it only matters when we vote. And when we inspire people to come out in massive numbers. Then we have the power of the vote. We have the power to demand changes in our community at every level. Whether we're talking about economics, whether we're talking about property ownership, whether we're talking about our schools. And I'm not going to say much more, but our schools. We must focus on and concentrate our energy on how do we create an education system that allows our children to have access to the best education. Not only at high school, but middle school, grammar school, and even in early childhood education. So that when they graduate, they can go on to college, they can go on to a trade school, they can go into a job that is worthy of a livable wage. So we have to look at those things. It only happens, folks, if we vote. And so I just want to say, from carrying the torch with Amelia Boynton Robinson is an everyday reminder for me that I cannot be silent. And I think of Fannie Lou Hamer when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. But when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, think of Queen Mother and become inspired and do something. And ask yourself, what am I being called to in this moment, this critical moment in time? And what am I afraid of that's keeping me from stepping into my own greatness? And that's the message from Queen Mother tonight. Thank you.
But no, you can't leave yet. I heard you make a reference to travel around the world.
Yes.
And a lot of people talk about traveling all over the country all the time. And they haven't been into a place but Kentucky and Tennessee. Explain to the young people in here what you mean about traveling around the world.
Certainly. Karen Hunter Watson and I, my mother, who at the time was in a wheelchair with final stages of Alzheimer's, and several other walkers, we set out to walk around the world. Our first walk was from Pennsylvania to Georgia through the Appalachian Mountains, covered many of the escape routes of the Underground Railroad as well as the Trail of Tears. From there we went to Africa. We walked in Ghana to each of the slave dungeons, the two that are well known, Elmira and Cape Coast, but we also went to one that I saw in a dream that I wrote in someone in Africa. The letter went around to figure out where this place was. It was in the village of Abanzi, and it was where it's believed that Harriet Tubman's elders were held, and it was a slave dungeon where those who didn't quite give in to the idea of being taken to America were kept. So I can talk more about that at some other gathering. From that walk, we then went, we came back, we took about a year off, and then we set out on a 4-year journey around the world. We went on 6 continents, and we met with communities. We didn't have money, we just showed up. As resources availed themselves, as our beautiful community supported us during that 4-year period, my mom in a wheelchair was carried in the arms of men all over the world in just such a loving way. And so when we talk about walking around the world or having traveled the world, it wasn't just traveling. We lived in communities of every faith. We lived in communities of every race. We lived in every kind of community, from indigenous communities to very ritzy communities. And what we learned is that if we judge the world by what we hear in the news, we're missing the point, because this little crew, this little motley crew going around the world, we were held in loving arms of families from every faith. We slept in temples, we slept in mosques, we slept in churches, we slept, you name it, indigenous communities. And what we found is that people in community are the example of love. And so if we want to look for inspiration, let's look in Tuskegee. That's right. You know, let's look in our hometowns. Let's look in our own families. Find the inspiration there, not what's being put out there on media, because that's the point where we remember who we are.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm talking about Miss Karen Hunter Watson, you guys. And tonight I'm going to ask her to do one of those good old-fashioned solos that she used to do every time they would come up here from Cottonwood, Alabama. We had created a family away from home in Cottonwood. And we would go to Cottonwood and they would come here. And every time she would come in Queen Mother's presence, she would sing a song to her. Would you please give us a little hoot tonight? Whatever comes to mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It was such a blessing to be able to sing to Queen Mother, and she enjoyed it so much, so this is for Queen Mother. How can I say thanks for all the things you have done for me? Been so undeserved, yet you did prove your love for me. The voices of a million angels cannot express my gratitude. All that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it all to thee, to God be the glory, to God be the glory, to God be the glory for the things He has done with His love. He has saved me with His power. God has raised me to God be the glory for the things she has done. Just let me live my life. May it be pleasing, Lord, to Thee. And if I gain any praise, may it go, my God, to Thee with your love. You have raised me with your power. God has raised me to God be the glory for the things He has done.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, and let me stand. I am tired. I'm weak, and I'm warm through light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me on when my highway Rose dream, precious Lord, linger when my life is almost gone. Hear my cry. Hear me when I call, yeah. Hold my hand. If you don't hold me, I got to fall. Take my hand. Precious Lord, and lead me on. Mother is gone. My father is gone. They left me here. I got to carry on. But I get tired. I'm weak, and I am worn. Strengthen me, Lord. Oh, Lord, make me strong. Guide my feet, Lord, and lead me on.
that took me back through her lifetime. And the one thing that she told me about is where she got courage from. Her father, back in 1920, was a businessman. He owned a wood yard. He built them in 1920 an 11-room home in Savannah, Georgia. Can you imagine that? That gave her a sense of independence. Her mother was a no-nonsense housewife who showed her how not to take junk off of anybody. She told me about the story of going to get on the bus one day. And the bus driver wanted them to pay at the front of the bus, get off, then go to the back of the bus and get back on. And Queen Mother said, her mother said, "Are you crazy?" And she took the money that she was about to pay to get on the bus, threw it in the bus driver's face, and walked off the bus, and they walked to where they were going. That was her beginning of courage. She was in a courtroom one time with her mother, and she saw the judge disrespect her mother. When the judge disrespected her mother pointed her finger at that judge, and the judge was white. And she told him, "I'm going to have your job." She went out into that community and she campaigned against that judge and got him unelected. And that powered that Amelia Platt's life. She was Platts at that time. She was born to a man named George Platts and to a woman named Anna Platts. Now, little Amelia during those days was kind of strange because when other little girls was chasing behind boys, she was climbing trees, riding horses, and stealing her dad's keys and driving his car in the ditch. Now, that was an independent little woman. And she was so amazed that her father didn't even punish her for wrecking his car. Father knew, I guess, a jewel with that woman. Her first sibling rivalry was with her sister who went to Georgia State. And little Amelia wanted to follow her big sister. So when she graduated from high school, she went to Georgia State too. Thing about it though, she only lasted at Georgia State for a year because her sister told her mama, "I don't want Amelia to go back to Georgia State again because she's ruining my reputation." Sister was an academician and little Amelia was just going to school because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. Her first encounter with George Washington Carver was at a school in Georgia. And, you know, George Washington Carver, after the last tone voice, and he talked like that. And she and the little girl thought that was so amazing. They were standing in a doorway of the auditorium grinning, you know, where little kids sneaking among each other, and got busted by a teacher. And she never ever forgot the lesson that she learned by laughing at and making fun at George Washington Carver. Now, she left Georgia State and came to Tuskegee, kind of like because of George Washington Carver. And when she got to Tuskegee, her first encounter with George Washington Carver was she was working in the cafeteria. And they taught her now the proper way to load her trays and to carry them well balanced and to serve and get to the table to put them down. But you know Amelia Boynton Robinson, she had her own way of doing stuff. She overloaded a tray. She didn't hold it level. And when she got to the table, she jumped up everything on the tray off on the woman's lap that was sitting with Dr. George Washington Carver. This guy's sister, her future husband, sister, came over to introduce her to her brother. Okay? And the brother said, "Hey, how are you?" You know, shook her hand and left and went and sit with another girl. So that was the beginning of her deciding that she just didn't care about some things. She used to tickle me because she used to say, "I didn't know what to do with no boy no how, so I didn't care whether he stayed over there or not." But that just did not work out for her. So Amelia graduated and she went to teach in Georgia. And when she got to Georgia, she practiced what her mother used to do, but she didn't know the limitations because the principal called a teachers meeting and made the mistake of asking, "Does anyone in here have anything to say?" Shouldn't have asked Amelia that, because Amelia told him all about himself and how he was interfering with her ability to teach her children and to carry them where they needed to go. That was on Friday. On Monday, she was fired. You know what she said? "I don't care." She left. And she went to another school in Georgia. And she got another teaching job. Now God stepped in at that point. Because when she got to that job, she was doing fine, but somebody recommended her for a job with the Department of Agriculture at the United States level. And that had to have been God. Because that job took her back to Dallas County over at Selma. And you know what she was supposed to do when she went on that job? She was supposed to teach how to cook and how to clean and how to sew. Now you know what Amelia did? Not what the Department of Agriculture wanted her to do. She taught how to cook, how to clean, how to sew, how to register, how to vote, how to buy land, to break up sharecropping situations. And that did not make the white folks of Dallas County very happy. Because they told her that you are messing up our way of life and you got to cut this mess out now. Now, did Amelia stop doing what she was doing? After bomb threats, after her husband was falsely arrested, after all kinds of intimidations, she messed around and kept right on doing what she was doing. And a guy came into their office one day. He had a big stick, and he was going to beat Mr. Boynton down with the big stick. Now somebody took the stick. I want to see how smart you guys are. Who took the stick from the man who came in and beat Mr. Boynton? You're exactly right. Queen Mother took the stick, and she said that I was just about to go to work on it. But my husband begged me, "Honey, please don't beat him with that stick." And their office was right across the street from the police department, you know. So you know that guy had a lot of nerve. But you see, if she had beat that man with that stick and the police got called, they wouldn't have saw any damage to Mr. Boynton, who they would have claimed the man came in to beat. They would have seen a beat up, mean white fella in their office, and Mrs. Boynton and Mr. Boynton in that office, and I don't even have to tell you how the charges went. Okay? But anyhow, moving right along. I told you she went to the Department of Agriculture, and that's where Mr. Boynton was working. Okay. Now, I told you at the university when she was introduced to him, how he was playing hard to get, like it wasn't no big thing. Well, now the shoe was on the other foot. Because now, the Cupid stepped in, and Mr. Boynton thought that Amelia PLATTS was cool. But Amelia PLATTS decided that she was going to be the one who was going to be hard to get. So they played some runaround, and one day he borrowed her car to take his girlfriend on a date. And she loaned him the car. But she told him on Friday, just pick me up on Monday morning. Don't bring the car back. Just pick me up. Now, Sunday evening, she's sitting in her house with her boyfriend, and somebody's sitting out in front of her house blowing the horn. I wonder if you guys can guess who that was outside blowing the horn. All right. She walks out there and she asks him, she said, hey, why don't you come back here? I told you not to come until Monday morning. And before he could say anything, she slapped him dead upside his head. And Mrs. Boynton said, I had never raised my hand to swat a fly, let alone hit a human being. Well, he left, came back Monday morning to pick her up. Neither one of them knew what to say to the other. He got to the office, walked in the office. Neither one of them knew what to say to break the ice, to say, well, I'm sorry I came back earlier. I'm sorry I slapped you upside your head. And so he walked up to her. She turned around, and there was no talking done, because he put a big fat smooch on her. And that solved the whole situation. It wasn't long before marriage happened. And that marriage was what really made the white people in the community mad, because now you have a strong-willed black man and a strong-willed black woman unified. So they got busy, kept on teaching people how to vote, how to buy land, how to get away from the sharecroppers. And Mr. Boynton succumbed to the pressure. He died. And that was a turning point of the whole voting rights movement. Because when the deacons from the church decided that they was going to have a memorial for Mr. Boynton, the preacher said, no, you're not either. You know they didn't like that man, so we ain't going to have him coming up and here creating that problem. And the deacon stood up so strong against the pastor until he surrendered, because the deacon said, if you don't let us have it inside the church, we're going to have it on the steps outside the church. And so the preachers came around and agreed for the memorial to happen. Now guess who came to the memorial? Sheriff Jim Clark. Now Sheriff Jim Clark was worse than Wallace. Because Governor Wallace would stand back and talk stuff, but at least he was sick his troopers on you if he wanted somebody to do something to you, or some other people from the community. But now, Sheriff Jim Clark C.T. Vivian was talking to him about coming into the courthouse to register to vote. And if you can see on some of these television things, Sheriff Jim Clark took his nightstick and knocked him clean off the steps of the courthouse. And C.T. Vivian never stopped talking. He was talking while he was falling. He was talking when he got back up. And he showed character. But now Sheriff Clark was a very, very mean man. He's the kind of police officers you don't want to be around. Okay? And this kind of police officer we have to weed out. You see? And you can't weed out police officers now, bad police officers, by being stupid. You have to be intelligent. You have to be thoughtful. You have to be strategic. And you have to know what you see and know what you hear. And you need to report it properly. Because you get out calling everybody a whole bunch of MFs and all that other kind of stuff, you just look stupid and you still behind the 8 ball. But that's just a commercial. But anyhow, now they are moving right along. Now, Sheriff Jim Clark, I just had a picture of there not too long ago, put her in jail one night for standing on the sidewalk. Talk about her audacity in that situation. They were at the courthouse trying to go in and protest. Mrs. Robinson left her office and just walked over to talk to the people. Sheriff Jim Clark said, you get off the sidewalk and you get over there with those other niggas. And let me ask you another question. Did Queen Mother get over there with the other people? Boy, you guys are smart. Queen Mother say, I'm going back to my office. I said, you get over there with those other niggas. Queen Mother, and I said, I'm going back to my office. And you can see that famous picture that's in history where Sheriff Jim Clark had jacked her up behind her belt and up behind her collar and got her bump rushed down the street, dead to a cruiser, dead on into jail. And, you know, she experienced a very serious thing that day. Because the people on the sidewalk said, go ahead, Mrs. Boynton, we will join you. Now, you know she didn't believe those people. We scared of the jailhouse, we scared of the police, we scared of everything that got guns and stuff. And so she went on to jail, and she was shot to death because after a while, a whole bunch of singing and hollering and screaming coming down the sidewalk. She looked out the window of the jail, and there will come over 200 people that forced Sheriff Jim Clark to put them in jail too. That's audacity. Yeah, that's strength, that's courage. And for the young people in this room, you need to always have something that you can commit yourselves to. And once you commit yourself to something that's right, I don't care what kind of opposition that you run into. You stand for what you believe in. All right? All right. Now, Karen, could I get you to come back up here for just a second? Now, Queen Mother was sitting up in the jailhouse, and these people, they had trouble getting them into the jail because all the locks froze up that night. And they finally got a way to get some of them in there. When they came by her cell, they told her, we told you, Mrs. Boynton, that we was going to join you. And they sat in the jail, and they went to the good Lord on some good old time spirituals, like, come by here, Lord, come by here. And when we used to go around the country speaking, I would introduce her story, and when I got to this point, I'd always give her the mic and let her sing to them, come by here, my Lord, or whatever you get out of it.
Come by here, dear Lord, come by here, come by here, my Lord, come by here. Come by here, my Lord, come by here. Oh Lord, come by here.